Larry King recently interviewed Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he had some really interesting things to say about climate change. Take a look.
Why isn't it raining in California?
Yeah, the climate is. I mean, drought. It's not as though droughts have no precedent in the history of the world. But what's more important than that it's not raining is there's a consumption of clean water, potable water from the water table that's not being replenished, and it's being pulled out at a faster rate than it's returning. And that's a recipe for disaster. And so we need to think more, sort of, dare I use the word, holistically about systems that manifest on this earth. And that's a relatively new way to think about the world.
But what do we do about it? Stumped, huh?
Yeah, I don't have easy answers. I think we need to be better shepherds of our activities and our behaviors. If you're watering your lawn, do you need clean, potable water to water your lawn? No. You could use the water that came out of your dishwasher. Your grass is not going to care. But we've set up a system that does not intelligently use even the limited water that's available.
Bigger question, why isn't it raining?
All I can tell you is that in the world, what we're going to find is more extremes of weather. Okay, when it rains, it's going to rain heavier. When it's not going to rain, it's going to rain less than it ever didn't rain before. And as these extreme, that's kind of the new normal we're going to have to grow accustomed to. And all evidence points to the fact that it is human-caused influence on the ecosystem, on the climatic system.
So cold weather will get colder, warm weather will get warmer, wet weather will get wetter?
Yeah. So the extremes, you'll start visiting the extremes. And what happens is, as the temperature rises, more moisture from the ocean gets lifted into the atmosphere. And generally, when we think of weather, we think of storms and things. And so now that when you have a storm, there's more moisture to feed that storm. There's more heating to drive the convective cells. And so the storm gets more ferocious. And we had flooding down here in New York. By the way, this change that people are talking about, it's not one day the ocean will just sort of come in and stay there on your doorstep. No, that's not how it happens first. It happens first where there would be a storm where there'd be a tide surge. And previously, the tide surge never really, maybe came over the sidewalk or the boardwalk, but that was about it. It went away. Now the tide surge makes it into the streets. And that's your first indication. These extremes are your first encounter with what will soon become the new normal.
So this is something that's really scary, and it's a consequence of climate change that's really been right in front of us, but I think we've all been pretty oblivious to it, not necessarily because of our own fault, but because the media is not really paying attention to it. So if you look at the Texas and Oklahoma weather conditions right now, they're setting records for rainfall. If you look at California, they're setting setting records in terms of drought. This is really, really terrifying. It's really terrifying because it's going to get worse than this. This isn't necessarily even the top yet. There's going to be a lot more consequences that we don't even know about when it comes to global anthropogenic climate change. Now, the problem is that the media is not covering climate change, and right now, citizens are about 50-50, about 50%, according to a lot of polls. I'm kind of speculating here for the most part, but from what I've seen, about 50% of citizens think climate change is an issue, and the other 50% think that it's not an issue. Now, when you look at media coverage, ABC and Fox basically gave no coverage to it. CBS and MSNBC, well, they did about 45 segments in 2013, but seeing that this is such a huge prevalent issue and it has implications for the entire globe, I don't think that 45 segments is going to suffice. Now, when you go to which Sunday shows, which individuals they had on their show to discuss climate change, well, 50% were politicians, 45% were media figures, and the majority of the politicians were Republicans. Where's the scientists? See, it's a lot easier for the mainstream media to just throw on any politician and let him or her, that is, espouse their opinion on climate change. But the problem is that we need real scientists to discuss this, because this is a huge issue. Although Republicans now say that, yeah, it is the case that the climate is changing, well, they still don't agree with the notion of anthropogenic climate change, which just means that it's man-made, or the majority of it is man-made. This is extremely problematic. The media's job is to fact check. Their job is to give us the facts and let us know the problems that face our society, but the problem is that they're not doing it. They're allowing these Republicans mostly to get on and toe the party line, and that's very problematic. Now, I'm not just being one-sided here. Even when it comes to Democrats, should they be on to talk about climate change? No, they shouldn't. Unless they're proposing legislation that's going to do something about it, then they shouldn't be on. We should be hearing from the scientists, and they should be discussing these issues, because this isn't something that's going to affect us 50 years, 100 years down the line. The consequences are happening right now. A lot of people kind of have that false sense in their mind that, well, it's going to be, Florida's going to be underwater, and in the future it's going to impact agriculture disproportionately, albeit because, some places such as Canada may actually benefit from warmer weather. But that's in the future, we could worry about it then. Well, no, that's not the case. I think that this segment really demonstrates that climate change is a huge issue, and we have to take charge right now. But if you heard from the G7 leaders at the last summit, they agreed to get off of fossil fuels by 2100. 2100. You see, the problem is that even if we stop emitting CO2 right now, just 100%, if we just stop, well, that's not going to mitigate the consequences of climate change. So now we've waited so long to do anything that not only do we have to focus on mitigation, we also have to focus on adaptation, because this is really going to be problematic. It's not just climate change. There's a ton of things that are happening as a result. There's ocean acidification, desertification. This is all really problematic. This is a multifaceted issue, and if we don't really take charge right now and do anything, then it's going to be very, very, very... It's going to be a sad future, man. And I don't even know if the really strongest effects, such as states such as Florida being underwater, is going to be the worst of it. There's going to be mass migrations and whatnot, and these are just some of the consequences that we know about. There's so many other consequences that are probably going to come to fruition that it's really scary. So we have to do something.